Hi, today I want to discuss why religious Christians are typically Zionists. I know many have wondered why you hardly see Christian anti-Zionists. Actually, no major Christian denomination has really ever come out as anti-Zionist. The most we've seen are groups such as the Catholic Church, which till today hold a non-Zionist approach to the whole issue. These individuals usually adhere to what's known as replacement theology, the concept that the church has replaced Israel and thus the existence of the state has no eschatological significance. It's actually evangelical Christians that make up the majority of Christianity's support for the state of Israel. Why? Well, today I want to try to explain what drives the vast majority of Christians to support the state of Israel from a Christian theological perspective. The first idea I want to cover is the concept of dual covenant theology. Now, this ideology or theology is the get out of jail free card that Christians use when dealing with Jews or the secular media. There is no way that a true Bible thumping Christian believes in this concept. Christians understand that there is nothing a Jew hates more than a Christian who is hoping to convert them to Christianity. So they tell the Jew there's no need to worry, that they believe that Jews are saved by following the laws of Moses and their own religion, which is their special relationship with God, and do not need to accept Jesus as their Messiah in order to be saved or go to heaven. Now, these ideas really go against Christian scripture. That's why, depending on when and who's asking them, pastors will usually shift back and forth from ideologies. The last and the most relevant to our discussion is dispensationalism. Dispensationalism teaches that man is reconciled to God in only one way: God's grace through the work of Jesus that was accomplished on the cross and vindicated in his supposed resurrection. This concept teaches that before the cross, man was saved on the basis of Jesus' atoning sacrifice to come. And since the cross, man has been saved by believing in Jesus. Dispensationalism also typically believes that the ingathering of Jews in Israel is a prerequisite for the second coming of Jesus. So, in other words, if you're a Jew or any unbeliever for that, you should be evangelized so as not to go to hell. Now, this pretty much sums up what evangelical Christianity believes. And again, these are the largest supporters of the state of Israel. One thing that you probably haven't heard is that Christians cannot tell the difference between a secular Jew and a religious Jew. Why? Well, because it really doesn't play a role in their belief system. Both religious and secular Jews are seen as not having that relationship with Jesus that is needed in order to be saved. Why is this important? Well, when we encounter Jewish anti-Zionists, the element of the secular Jew plays a huge role in their ideology. How? Because most Jewish anti-Zionists mention the secular roots of Zionism as one of their main reasons for their dismissal of the Jewish state. Like I said before, that does not affect Christians' Zionist theology or ideology. And that's why biblical warnings like the land vomiting secular Jews out of it because they're not keeping the Torah within it does not apply to them anymore, because they believe that that covenant was done away with in order to make way for the covenant that they enjoy through Jesus. Also, apart from the Hebrew scriptures, much of the sources that Jewish anti-Zionists use to validate their positions on the existence of the so-called Jewish state of Israel are found in rabbinic literature, which Christians are typically not exposed to, but Jews have accepted to be of divine origin. Although I consider myself an anti-Zionist, my views for not tolerating the secular state are different than the typical Jewish anti-Zionist ones. I could actually say that from a secular perspective, I'm also a Zionist. How could I not be? The only true democratic state in the region that fights daily for its survival against barbarous Muslims who would love to cut my throat and throw me down a well. From a political secular position, how could you not be for the existence of the so-called Jewish state of Israel? But that's just it. I'm not secular. I'm a religious Jew who knows that the main reason the Jews were thrown out of the land to begin with was because they weren't adhering to God's commandments in the first place. So what do you think is going to happen now, when the state of Israel has twice as many abortions per capita than the U.S. and 3 times as many homosexuals within it per capita than the U.S., and when the state is the largest importer and exporter of drugs and prostitution in the region? That's why I cannot be a Zionist. Not because I sympathize with Arabs, because I don't, but because I sympathize with Jews. So I have always said that as long as the state would just drop calling itself a Jewish one and change its name, then I would also fall in line with its supporters. But it doesn't, and really never will. Why? Well, because the founders of the state, being atheists, did not really care for the idea of the state adhering to its Jewish roots, but unfortunately knew they would not be able to receive Christian or religious Jewish support worldwide if they failed to do so. So they decided on the Jewish theme and the Jewish homeland. Actually, anyone who's familiar with Zionist history knows that before deciding on Palestine, Uganda and even Argentina were on the table. Now, this is not just my version of what happened. You can ask any religious Jewish Zionist and they'll tell you the same. However, they will say that their goal is an attempt to make the secular state of Israel into a religious one. And that's where I'm not so optimistic. So ultimately, why do Christians support the state of Israel? Well, because they have an agenda of their own, which surprisingly has its sources in Jewish scripture. The belief that the Messiah will not return unless all Jews are in the land. In their opinion, either secular or religious, because in their eyes, it's ultimately for our own good. Why? Because Christianity teaches that all of Israel will be saved. Saved by becoming Christian, that is. And through this ideology or theology, they believe that they receive the blessing uttered to Abraham. I will bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. How? Because they believe by not supporting the state and equipping the Jews to become complete through the acceptance of Jesus via his return, they would be cursing them, the Jews, and thus being cursed themselves. If you ever wanted to learn more about the Jewish religion, please visit bejewish.org. There you will find videos that will answer all your questions. Thank you.
I've got Jews at my table.
It's not your table. It's the place's table. Behave.